Welcome to Sleeping with Sarah. I'm Sarah Albritton, a narcoleptic comedian, and this is the podcast where I interview people in my bed and we talk about sleep, comedy, and relationships. Today is my 100th episode, and it's a good one, guys. I interviewed Alex Hooper from America's Got Talent and Roast Battle. He's amazing. We talked about meditation, Burning Man, conquering fears, mushrooms, and a lot more, guys. He's a blast. I can't wait for you to hear that. Please follow Alex on all the social media. He's on Instagram and Twitter at Hooper Hairpuff. That's HooperHairPuff. Or go to hoopercomedy.com to see what else he's got going on. And I know I've been talking a little bit about politics in the beginning of these, but today I just want to focus on positivity and good things happening. So I hope this will bring a little light to your day and a smile on your face, because Hooper's awesome, and I'm excited to share all the crazy stuff. We talk about America's Got Talent, we talk about slacklining, bungee jumping, all other random and amazing things. And I hope you get some good things out of it. Real quick, if you do like the podcast, please rate and review on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, everywhere you listen to podcasts. You know this drill, right? You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Sarah Albritton, or go to my website, sleepysarah.com, for more stuff on me. And with that, I just want to get started with this awesome podcast, and I hope you enjoy our 100th episode. Let's get started with the show. Sleeping with Sarah. Welcome to Sleeping with Sarah. I'm Sarah Albritton, and I'm here with my guest, Alex Hooper.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. How'd you sleep last night, Alex?
Last night was actually pretty good. I think I woke up twice over the course of like 8 hours, which is pretty good for me. Sometimes I go through spells where, especially in the summertime, where no matter how many fans I have and air conditioners blowing, I just have trouble actually getting myself down. But lately, I've been doing a meditation before I go to sleep as well as earlier in the day. And that's been really helping me to just kind of calm everything down and get myself to a place where I just drift off into la la land.
I think that's great. Meditations are really good way to like get there. I can just sleep whenever. So I usually fall asleep during meditations, which is why I don't like do them as much, but
that's not a bad thing, because then you're like, hey, I meditated for 5, but I was in there for 40, so I'm going to count 40 minutes. But you know, I'm the exact same way of just like, I never, I just need something to calm my brain down all the time from just firing 1,000 miles an hour. And a lot of times I can sleep anywhere. Like if you put me on a hardwood floor in the middle of a barn and said, that's your bed for the night, I'd be like, okay, I can sleep here. However, getting to sleep and staying asleep have been increasingly more difficult in the past few years.
Well, I started this podcast because I feel like a lot of people, like, not as severe as I have, I've got the narcolepsy, but a lot of creative people have issues sleeping or have some sort of sleep problems just in general, either because of our schedules or just the way we work. I don't know. Do you find that to be?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult sometimes to turn off our brains. Like, if I have if I have something coming up, whether it's a show, a podcast, or I just thought of a new joke, my brain is just reeling all the time. And so to get myself to a place where I can be like, hey, like, you got to shut up right now, dude. Like, I need some air. I need some downtime. And I can usually get myself there. But I mean, it was last year, I was having a mother of a time sleeping, and I was getting only 3 hours a night, and I just couldn't get myself there. And I started trying everything. I stopped drinking coffee. I started taking valerian root. I started doing all of these holistic kind of ideas behind sleep. And I started to stop doing everything I was doing. And it wasn't really helping. And the meditations before I go to sleep have been the most beneficial thing that I have found, for sure.
What kind of meditation do you do?
I just honestly, I don't do any guided things. I just close my eyes. I sit there, hands open, and I just try to breathe in, breathe out as much as I can. I change up my breathing a little bit. I'll hold my breath for a while. I'll give myself some positive affirmations of just you did everything you wanted to do today. You've been productive. You're happy. You're beautiful. You're all these different things. I lie to myself. constantly. That's what I do. But it works. I mean, in a lot of ways, the thing is your brain, a lot of times it can't differentiate between an actual scenario and one that you envision in your own mind. The feelings are the same. So if you can get yourself to that point, you can, especially like for something like sleeping, I can bring myself down and eventually be like, okay, now I'm ready to just knock out.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It's a very common practice. It's like visualization and things like that. Like if you visualize yourself winning $1 million and you go in deep into a meditation and you feel it and you really picture every part of it, like winning the money, collecting it, getting all this, whatever it may be, you're going to start having these feelings of, oh my God, did I just win $1 million? I'm tingling all over. And then you're going to come out of it and look around your 1-bedroom apartment and go, fuck, no, I definitely do not. But I felt it for a little while.
But do you believe in manifesting? I feel like LA is so like meditation, crystals, manifesting your future, all of that.
You know, I didn't used to, and I will say, yeah, LA got to me. I read personal development books. I do meditate. I journal. I do try to like visualize and manifest things. I try to think about things that I want in my life coming to me, but I also imagine that I already have them. A big part of the meditations and the books that I've read is like, you need to act like you already have these things that you want. So you say to yourself, you give yourself goals, but you say, I will have this thing by this time. And I repeat that to myself many times throughout the day, whether I'm driving, whether I'm meditating, whether I'm in the middle of a tennis match, I'll just suddenly be like, bam, say it, And I think the more we say it, the more our brain believes it, and the more the universe does try to give it to us. And please don't. I mean, it's just, when I say things like that, I'm just like, God damn it, Alex, what happened to you, man? But,
So how do you think you went from a cynic to believing in it? Do you start to see more people that did it, that got success? Because I've been doing like the manifesting kind of as a just in case, like it doesn't hurt, like why not?
Sure.
But like good things have started to be happening. So it's like, maybe it does all work. Like,
look, it's easier. Look, you can be a cynic all you want. And I was a hardcore atheist cynic. I don't believe in jack shit kind of human being. And that's one way to go about it. But then you're really not putting yourself out there in a world that's going to want to give you things. Whereas I feel like if you try to create a positive environment around yourself, people are more likely to swarm towards you and you're more likely to get the things that you want. So I just figure, look, of course I can be a cynic asshole who criticizes everything and doesn't believe in shit. Or I could go, well, maybe if I just think about these things in a more constructive, positive way, maybe they will start to happen. And the fact is they have, just because that energy you put out there really does attract good things back. And so I believe it to an extent. You know what I mean? I think a lot of it is tricking your own brain into going like, well, look, I thought about it and then I got it. But also thinking about it that you're going to get it will inspire you to ask for things and to go out and chase things more. If you go, look, I'm never going to have my own TV show. Damn right, you're probably not, because why would anyone give someone a TV show that says I'm never going to have a TV show? Whereas look at you, you're now in the finals for a script writing competition. You didn't say I'm going to write this script and it's not going to go anywhere. You said I'm going to put my all into this thing and who knows what will happen. And look what happened.
Exactly. No, and thank you. Yeah, I do believe in that. And I think there are a lot of cynics in LA, and that energy is a little exhausting to be around. The people that are just like mopey and like feel like they're never going to get anywhere. And it's like, I agree with you. Like if you have that attitude, then you're not. Like, I feel like my positive attitude gets me out, like makes me, first of all, feel better, make other people around me feel better. And then I feel like it's easier to collaborate. It's easier to get people to want to help you out or want to do things for you because you're positive.
For sure. And I mean, we see it time and time again. The most successful people are very kind people for the most part in our industry. People think comedy is a very singular, singular kind of world. But the fact is, we all root for the ones that we like and that are kind to us. And I felt that a couple weeks ago when I was asking people, like, I was sending out messages of like, guys, I'm on America's Got Talent. I need votes. It's the audience decision, not the judges. Please help. I felt so lifted up in those few days that I was sending those messages. And I'm unabashed about this. I sent out hundreds of messages to people that I've met throughout the years. And I felt so much love that day because people were willing to help me because they know that my heart is in the right place, that maybe I've helped them before, or maybe I just paid them a compliment, or maybe I laughed at their set from the back of the room when nobody else did. Whatever it may be, I gave you a reason to want me to win. And when you have a situation like that comes up, because it's pretty rare, right? Like right now you're in one where you're trying to win this thing, but it's pretty rare that we're actually trying to be in a competition where we need it. But the moments that we are, you're going to feel so lifted up by people that support you because you've been a good person. So I think it's so important to put that energy out there, and you don't know what's coming back.
Yeah, I agree. And so let's talk about your experience on America's Got Talent. How was that for you? Pretty,
crazy highs and crazy lows at the same time. It's such a huge opportunity to be on a show like that. And I was on in 2018 and I was asked back in 2020. And obviously every single performance I had was such a unique nightmare in a different kind of way. I wrote a blog all about it. I won't go into full details, but basically getting booed and annihilated by 3,000 people for 7 minutes. Second one, same room, only there is no audience. I'm in front of 3 judges in a theater that holds 3,000 people, and I'm trying to win the approval of 3 billionaires. And then the third one, have again no audience, huge stage, live television for 10 million people with jokes I've never told before. I'm basically doing an open mic in front of 10 million people, and if I fuck up a single time, that's going to be on the internet for the rest of my life. And I haven't performed in 6 months. So everything about my experience on AGT was so bizarre and so unique to just my individual circumstances. But overall, they really allowed me to do something daring and bold, especially for a show like that. And they really listened to my ideas and allowed me to be myself. And of course, they had to pull me back a lot because I had them going, Alex, you got to go hard. Like executive producers, and judges gave you the okay. We want you to go so hard. And I'm like, you ready for this? And then I send them jokes and they're like, oh, holy crap, dude. No. You went way further than we wanted to go.
When you say go hard, you got to show that you could go hard. You'd rather be real, but they had to approve your jokes beforehand, so you had to be real.
Of course,
obviously, yeah.
But that's the thing. They found me at Roast Battle in 2017 is when they watched Roast Battle and said, let's put this on America's Got Talent. And I was like, are you fucking insane? What are you talking about? Are you watching this show right now? Racism, misogyny, sexism, homophobia, every single thing that's wrong with it was wrong with what we say is terrible for that show. But they allowed me to give them an opportunity to kind of do it in my own style and my own way. And I will say the challenge of writing family friendly yet still scathing roast jokes was very difficult for me to find that balance and that line of well, can I say this? And they're like, we don't like that word. What else you got? Sometimes it was literally a word. But imagine you write a joke and you want to go tell it on stage, but then you have to get the approval of 10 different people who all have to say, yes, that joke is okay to say. It's kind of emasculating experience in some ways, because as comedians, all we want to do is be free and say whatever we want. And on a show like that, you have to relinquish a lot of control, but you also have to, I'll say this, if anyone wants to go on that show, you also have to fight for what you believe in. I stood up for myself time and time again because they said, I don't think this joke is appropriate. And I would ask them, I was like, explain what you are seeing that I'm not, because I don't see why. And time again, they would allow me to win the argument, which is, it says a lot about the producers and, the respect that they gave me on a show like that. Because, that's not a show that I am ever going to win, or that I'm going to I should barely even be on that show. I don't even know how I got there, but I'm thankful for it.
Yeah. Cause that opens up doors for you and gives you more opportunities and more people to follow you. I mean, it sounds like a very crazy different experiences you had. And also the fact that you hadn't told those jokes before. I didn't realize that those were like jokes you had never told.
Wow. Right. Well, because I can't even it'd be difficult to go to a club and practice those anyway, because you kind of have to set up the scenario. Okay, you're Heidi Klum, you're Howie Mandel, just pointing at people in the front row, But it would have been difficult anyway. But at least I would have just gone out there and just been performing nonstop, just so I have that in my blood. When I walk out there, I know, I got this. I'm not going to flub a word. I got my thoughts all clear. I know exactly where everything goes. But not having that, talk about a nerve-wracking experience. And I had to stay those 2 weeks leading up to the show, because I was filming with them almost every single day, or I had some kind of project with them to do something, whether it's a background interview, a COVID test, a outfit, wardrobe things, blocking rehearsals. It was about 2 weeks of nonstop work. And I had to stay so stress-free during those 2 weeks and make sure that my skin doesn't break out, and that I'm not getting overheated, and that I'm staying calm to the point where I'm not thinking about the fact that this is by far the biggest performance I've ever done in my entire life. And I'm getting to do it in a year when comedians can't go on TV. And that is a privilege that I was not going to take lightly. And I think it allowed me to create something so much bigger than what I had done before on the show. I had to step up, and I'm proud enough of what I did to say that I really feel like I made a mark, and I put out something memorable and unique that comedians and comedy fans will find for years to come.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I could totally see how people would be terrified for that. I don't do roast. I haven't done a roast battle yet, although I'm teetering on maybe I will try it soon. But it's something I haven't done yet because, like I said, I like being a nice person. I'm not very good at insulting people, I think.
But Sarah, look at me. I'm a very nice person.
Yeah.
All I want to do is spread positivity and joy. But I think the best roasters are that. If you find someone who's really mean, they're probably not a good roaster, because they're not coming from the right place. But even someone like Anthony Jeselnik is considered a horrific comic as far as the subjects that he broaches and the things he does. But if you ever talk to Anthony, he's just a super sweet guy. Same with most people in the roasting world. That's what you would hear about Joan Rivers, Don Rickles, Jeff Ross. They're all willing to help people out and be kind. And then there's this other side of us that can unleash these demons into the world and get them out in what I think is a very constructive way. That's literally how I get out my anger, is doing that. But it doesn't come from a place of anger. It comes from a place of love and respect.
I like that. That's a very good perspective on that.
We only roast the ones we love, Sarah.
That's true. So
I love Sofia Vergara. Love her.
That's so good. So where did you move? You're not from LA, right? Did you move from LA?
No, Baltimore.
Yeah,
I'm East Coast. Yeah.
You start comedy out there or out here?
No, I actually started out here. I moved out here right after I went to school in Pittsburgh, school called Point Park University. I started acting in movies and TV shows when I was in school in Pittsburgh. So I thought, I'm already in SAG. Let's jump to LA. Let's see what happens. And I'd been in LA about 5 months, and I was just not really knowing what to do with myself, because acting jobs are so few and far between. And somebody was like, dude, one of my best friends was like, you got to do stand up. And I was like, I don't even know how to go about doing that. He's like, well, I'll show you how. And then he literally just booked me on a show 2 weeks later. So he was like, okay, you got 2 weeks, 6 minutes, write some jokes. And I was like, okay, guess I better get cracking. And, like everyone else, I worked those 6 minutes to death, hairbrush in the mirror, going over it again and again and again. And it was,
because you didn't even know to go to a mic. Like he didn't tell you.
I had no idea. He booked me on a bringer show in the Valley. And I just, in a place called the Aura Nightclub, which then turned into the Spotlight Comedy Club. But it was one of those things where I had no idea what I was doing, so much so that for the first 6 months I did comedy, I only did bringer shows and showcases. I never did an open mic. And then a couple of my friends were like, hey, we're going to this open mic today. You want to go? I was like, what are you doing at an open mic? They're like, we test jokes. What are you talking about? And I was like, oh, that's probably a good idea. Instead of bringing my friends and coworkers to this show with jokes I've never told before and eating a bag of dicks, I could go to a place where people are supportive and listening and don't care if you bomb. And then so it was really, I'd probably done it like maybe 8 to 10 times my first 6 months. And then I just started, when I found the one open mic, I was like, oh. And then they were like, yeah, we do these like 2 or 3 times a night. And I was like, mind blown. What? Where do you go? And they were like, let me show you the way. And sure enough, and it was Eric Hahn, if you know him. Eric Hahn was one of the first people to really take me and start showing me open mics. And I was like, dude, this is a game changer. Why isn't everyone doing this? And he was like, they are. You're the only one who's not doing it. So
such an interesting path, but it's different. Like everyone has their own way of doing it. So it's like, why not?
Yeah, and that's especially in this day and age. Like, look, if you were a stand-up comedian 30 years ago, there was like 2 paths that you could take, right? This day and age, there's a million. So whatever you're going to find your niche or whatever, just go at it hard, and you will find a way if you stay in this long enough. I think the biggest thing I hear people tell me all the time, like, I'm going to give it 5 years and we'll see what happens. I'm like, don't even, why? Like, why are you already giving yourself an out before you even begin? And
this is what I try to tell people, the muggles, the people that aren't comics, like anybody you've heard of, anyone that has a stand-up special on Netflix, most people that get late night are usually at least 10 years in at that point.
At least.
Minimum. So like when people are like, oh, I know you've been doing that for a while. I'm like, yeah, I'm like 6.5 years in. I'm not even going to count this half year because I'm 6 years in because of COVID. But, I know where I'm at and I know where I should be. And I think, about where I need to be right now. Now, stand up.
I will say that I think you're ahead of where you need to be. If you're doing so well in screenwriting competitions, you're producing shows, you're doing all these things, I would say you're probably doing better than most of the pack that you started with, just because you're going out there on a limb and you're taking these chances and you're willing to fail. That's the biggest thing, is if you don't, you have to find a way to make yourself interesting. And how do you want to present yourself to the world? And if you're not willing to fail and take chances, then you're never going to be able to realize the potential that you truly have. I would say I didn't really start coming into my own as a comedian until I was about 7 or 8 years in. That's when I really started really figuring out like how edgy and weird I could be and where I could take bits and things like that. And I still am nowhere near where I'm going to end up. Like, I mean, I don't know where I'm going to end up, but I know that if I keep going on this path, I can only go the right direction, because I just know that I'm going to keep growing as a person and creating more and more interesting shit.
Yeah, because that's what's cool about it, is we're writing about our lives, our perspective at this time. So the comedy we'll do now is going to be very different than 10 years from now or 5 years from now or 2 years from now even, because the world changes and we're different. And I was talking to a friend who isn't a comic, and I was like, I feel like a lot of stand-ups are like philosophers. And she's like, exactly. She agreed. She's like, I've always said that stand-ups were like modern day philosophers. And I was like, that's so cool, because it shares our point of view on what's going on. And that's what's hard, because normally when we're going through shit, when something dark's happening, you go out, you talk about it on stage and you share it. And like, that's how we comics deal with it. Like, that's like our therapy in some ways. And now it's been very difficult because we haven't been able to do that for 6 months, aside from Zoom.
That's been for sure the most difficult part of the pandemic for me is I have so much energy, and literally I was going to work every day at my day job, and then I was going out and doing stand up every night, and I was on the road as much as I could, and I literally was never stopping. But I had a place to go release these thoughts and all of these things that are swirling around in me, and then I had to figure out how to basically get it out of me through relaxation and through the complete opposite end. Instead of going crazy on stage and talking to people every night and having these fun conversations and running around LA doing spot after spot, instead I have to go the complete opposite way and pull all the way back and go deep inside and say, well, who am I if I can't perform every single night? What am I as a person? It took me 23 years to find something that I loved and that gave me purpose, and to have it stripped away in such a huge, brash way was something that I think all of us kind of had to learn what to do. And it just goes to show that, like, we obviously were so much more than just like what we present ourselves and we're as comedians and things like that. But I think everyone has learned a lot about themselves in the past 6 months. And hopefully you've turned into a better person somehow. Hopefully you've been introspective. And me personally, I mean, I stopped thinking about my career for a while. I started thinking about how can I just help other people? How can I make other people feel good about themselves? And that's something that I've always done for the past few years. But really this time I was like, okay, now I'm doing fundraisers. Now I'm protesting. Now I'm calling friends that I feel like need to be reached out to. Like, I'm doing so much more than I ever was because I don't have to think about, well, I have a show tonight. I got to focus on that,
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you. I think that we've learned so much about ourselves in the last 6 months. That's like insane because you have to be alone with I'm an incredibly social person. So for me to suddenly go to like only being around my roommate, who my roommate at the time was an introvert. I have a different roommate now, but we still get along with the old roommate. Nothing wrong with that. But things changed. It's the pandemic. But it was very difficult those first couple months, especially when they shut down hiking, because the hiking trail was something I was doing really consistently. So that was so hard on me.
Me too.
Now I'm finding a good groove. I feel like I'm feeling more comfortable. I hang out with most friends outside and masked,
I mean, we ran into each other in the park a couple times.
I know. I love that park. It's a great park. And the fact that I could still recognize some friends with the masks on is so nice. It's like,
yeah, I always love when somebody walks up to me and I'm like, I'm slacklining. And they're like, Alex, is that you? I'm like, no, it's some other murder face looking motherfucker that's walking on a tightrope right now. Of course it's me. Like, what do you think?
I know. And it's weird. So, can you explain slacklining for people on the podcast who might not know what it is?
The easiest way to say it is it's basically like a bouncy tightrope that you walk on. So it's a 1 inch or 2 inch webbing that you tie between trees or poles or whatever you can find. And then you basically walk across this thing and you can bounce around on it. Some people do tricks. Some people go high line, like they do it between canyons and buildings and things like that. And it's a very meditative practice. It's very good for every part of your body. It works out muscles you've never felt before. It also really strengthens your core, but it also, for me, it gives me a sense of accomplishment that I'm doing something that a lot of people would find to be an amazing feat, that I'm walking across this very thin piece of webbing and I'm just dancing around up there. So in so many ways, I've been doing it for 3.5 years. In so many ways, it has improved the quality of my life, but especially my focus. I'm always so ADD. I'm like, oh, let me think about this. Let me think about this. Let me go here, 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 here. And with slacklining, you got to be lasered in while you're learning how to do it, especially. And you cannot remove focus from the other end of the line. Otherwise, you're going to fall off immediately.
See, that's why I was nervous seeing you in the park, because I was like, I don't want to mess up his focus. I don't want to say hi and then him fall down. So.
I remember because you were like, I didn't want to say anything. I was like, oh no, I'm fine. Let's have a conversation. Actually, it's much easier if I don't think about what I'm doing right now. Because for me, where I am in slacklining is I'm so comfortable up there that someone to talk to just makes me forget that I'm doing it all together. and I can just, I just play music or put on headphones, whatever I want to do, a podcast sometimes. And I just literally I'm just up there dancing around for a while. And it's just, every part of it makes me feel good. I'm outside, I'm exercising, I'm my mind and my body. I'm strengthening my every single thing right now. And I also just leave feeling very relaxed after I do it. So, I mean, I encourage anyone, find a hobby like that. It's, you got to be interesting in different ways, and you need things to make you feel good that are not just tied to performance in some way.
Yeah. And I think that's awesome advice, actually. Do you do any other circus arts other than slacklining?
No, not really. I mean, I have, that's my main one. I can't juggle. I can do like some acrobatic stuff. Like I'm pretty good at like just like hanging upside down and cartwheels and just weird thing. I don't know where it all comes from. But I remember specifically one of my silliest memories is I was at, I used to, in the old times, I produced comedy shows for music festivals. And every year we would do this festival called Desert Hearts, which is like 5,000 of the most beautiful weirdos, so fashionable, just dancing in the woods for a few days. It's so fun. And I remember the first year we went, I was with Troy Conrad would always come with us and take photos and document the whole thing. And he's, such an amazing photographer and such a good friend. And I remember one time I was just like, him and I were walking around the festival and I saw a ring just hanging there. I was like, oh, Troy, hang on, get a picture of this. And I grabbed the ring and just turned myself upside down, released my arms, and I was just hanging there upside down. Oh. And he starts having pictures and he just goes, how did you do that? And I was like, Troy, it's 2 a.m. I'm on drugs. I can do anything I want right now. I'm
That's
invincible.
So great.
So, it's belief in yourself, right? It's just telling yourself that I can do these things and I'm not scared of it. And so, I like being a weirdo. I like doing oddball things that people are like, why are you doing that? And it's like, I don't know.
No, I like that. I really like that about you. I tried, in Chicago, I took an aerial silks class, and that was really
that's very difficult.
It's so hard. I was a dance minor in college, so like it was shortly after that, and it was difficult, but it was like super good for your core. It felt really good to do it. But the scary part was like when you finally got to the point where you're like wrapping yourself up and then you like drop and you have to catch yourself by like your knees or something. Like otherwise you fall. Like that. Right. That's a scary part to me. But I think it's always good to do something once in a while that scares you. Like I think it's not like a bad thing.
100%. You have to grow. And the silk thing, I mean, I used to throw these parties called Crave that were all night comedy dance parties. And we used to have people do stuff like that, like silk performers and stuff like that. And luckily I wasn't at this particular party. It wasn't one of mine, but I knew a girl who broke her neck doing silk. And it is, I mean, it can, you're doing a very dangerous thing when you're doing something like that. You're not tied in, you're not leashed or harnessed in any way. So you really just have to trust yourself and things are going to happen. If you play a sport, eventually you're going to get injured in some way. And I mean, I just commend you for trying it because it's a scary thing to just look at that piece of fabric and go, I'm going to climb this, wrap myself in it and let myself fly around a room.
I took a class, to be fair. So I had like professionals and mats and like safety things, but.
Well, sure. But I mean, even still, it still doesn't make it less scary.
That's true. Yeah. I think it's important to try new things just to like open your mind. Like I hadn't painted in a long time and I tried this like weird painting thing recently just to like acrylic drip paint or something like that. And that was like really fun. It's like playtime. And I think people need to start doing things that are also make them get that sense of play, right?
100%. I mean, I think especially right now, like, I mean, I started making my own pickles and my own kimchi because I just have the time to do it. And I was like, I want to learn something new. Like I love pickled foods and let me just learn how to do it myself. And I just started experimenting and put out some pretty bomb jars of both of them. And again, that feeling of accomplishment of you eating something that you made yourself, that you didn't buy at a store, that you had never made before, it just lifts you up a little bit and it makes you go, whoa, okay. what else can I do? And of course, trying new things is terrifying. It always is. There's always that part of you that goes, but if you don't do it, then it's a lot less work and you're never going to fail. Yeah, well, then you're also not going to go anywhere as a human being. I mean, I said it before in this, but like, you have to be willing to fail at things. And if you're not, then you're really not going to realize your potential.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's the thing. Sometimes it's like something you're afraid of. That's maybe something you keep thinking about it, and you're like, well, it's scary, but you keep thinking about it. You should just do it. Same with like comedy. So many people I know have said that they thought about doing stand-up for like years before they actually tried it. And then you think, well, what if I had tried it when I first thought about it?
I mean, I think it's always the right time for somebody when they do try, as long as they do try whatever the thing that they're scared of is. Because what if you had started 4 years before you actually had, but then you weren't ready, you were in a different place in your life, and then you would have had to throw it away altogether to go pursue other things. So I think whenever you're going to start something is right. It's never too early. It's never too late necessarily. It's just what's in your own mind. But that's the one thing I can't, obviously as comedians, the worst thing you can do is come up and be like, oh man, I've always, I think I could do stand up. It's like, then get the fuck up there, dude. Then get up there and go do it, And so I just encourage anyone to go try anything that they want to. And the worst thing that you can do is fail. And that's actually a really good thing.
Yeah. I think you learn a lot from failing.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get embarrassed. You're going to get humiliated. You're going to have a lot of moments where you question why you ever did that thing in the first place. But I think if you actually listen to yourself, you'll find the answers that you actually are going to be happy with, that you're glad. I'm always glad that I did it, even when it's the most terrifying experience of my entire life.
That's good. I think that's very good. It's the same way I felt about like skydiving. I'm glad I tried it. I'm not sure if I need to try it again, but it was super fun. I'm glad I did it. But
did you go tandem?
I have to go tandem because otherwise there's a chance I could be really shocked and surprised and fall asleep during it. So.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I didn't even think about that. Oh my God, can you imagine?
Yeah, there's a lot of weird things that I have to be cautious about putting myself in weird situations. I had to like think ahead of time about like, I try to prep myself ahead of time to not be super surprised about any outcome. So that way it doesn't happen as much.
It's so crazy to me that you could jump out of a plane and be like, all right, well, now's a good time for me to just shut it all down and just fall asleep. And I know it's not a conscious decision, but the fact that your brain would just go, yeah, 13,000 feet up, yeah, probably a good time, well, and just like, burn.
I went bungee jumping about 2 years ago, and there's a video, and you could see I have a cataplexy for just a couple seconds, but I totally did it during bungee jumping 2 years ago.
Whoa! Did you do it at the Bridge to Nowhere?
Yes. Have you done that?
Man. No, I have skydived before, but I've never bungee jumped, and I totally would. I would love to go bungee jumping, and I hear that's a really good place to kind of get your beak wet, because it's not like the highest bungee jump in the world, but it's also a very satisfying, because it's a 5-mile hike in, 5 miles out. You're with like a group of people. There's camaraderie to it. I mean, how was your experience overall?
It was great. I actually had a friend from college, because I had just moved to LA at that point. A friend from college reached out and said, oh, like me and a couple other people are doing this. Do you want to like join? I was like, hell yeah, I'll do it. So we went, and I'd been hiking a lot at the time. So the 5 miles was a little bit, it wasn't that bad for me. And then we did the bungee jump, but then we kind of enjoyed the day and we took our time and walked back on our own. But then we got a little lost on the way back and got to some trails that were a little bit rougher. And at one point I fell. I mean, I'm not like off the mountain or anything, but I fell and like got like a little injured bruise, but it was, you survive, you're fine. But
that's so cool.
It was fun to do. It was really fun to try. I'm glad I did it. And I do recommend the Bridge to Nowhere is a really cool hike just to go see, because it's literally a bridge that goes into a mountain and it ends.
Yeah. It's why is this here?
I love that. When I have enough money someday, manifesting, see, when I have enough money someday, I want to create some big weird art installation that's random like that. That people will just be like, why is this here? I love that. I would love using art to fuck with people. Like, I love what Banksy does. I think that's super fun. Like, I would love to find a way to create art that messes with people on some extent.
Sarah, you have to go to Burning Man if you're into that. That Burning Man is literally 7 square miles of why the fuck is this thing here? And I'm so glad that it is. Like the most random pieces of art and just ideas come to life out there in ways where you're looking at and you're like, how did anyone get that thing here? What is this doing here? I mean, but it's all just there to be provocative, to be silly, to delight your mind, to confuse you. And everything out there is just this giant world of exploration. It is the biggest playground you've ever been in your entire life. And it is the most mind-boggling, ingenuitive achievements that you've ever seen from humanity, again and again and again. And some things are as big as, wow, we're dancing on the wing of a 747 right now while a DJ is playing from the cockpit, or as small as we're in the middle of nowhere in the deep playa and we find a little button that has 4 sets of headphones around it. There's 4 of us, so we're like, okay, let's all put on these headphones, and at the same time, we'll all press the button. We're in the middle of nowhere. It's the middle of the night. We press this button, and all it did was play the entire song of Africa by Toto. And we just stood out there, and we just sang it to the heavens all together. And then that's the only thing this button did. That's why somebody put it there, just to have that moment. And it's like, why? But it's
bring
so
people
fun.
joy in some weird way. And
Exactly.
Burning Man is still on my list. I actually have a Taschen art book of Burning Man, of photographs from Burning Man that I love because it goes throughout the day. Like it starts in the morning and then it's midday and then the evening and night. It's really beautiful.
I have that book. That's an amazing book.
Oh yeah? Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's literally like right down there. But no, and if you look at those pictures, I don't understand how anyone could look at those pictures and not want to go experience that. Like, I understand not wanting to go if you just are like, it's just a bunch of people doing drugs out in the middle of a dust storm. Some of it, yeah, but there's this bigger part of it that you're not realizing that is literally just the height of human creation, just doing things just for the sake of bringing people that pleasure. Yeah. And it's just, you can be anything you want out there. And it's things like Burning Man and music festivals that kind of, when you see me on America's Got Talent, you're like, whoa, how did this all happen? Because of music festivals and people going, you can be whatever you want to be. You have the freedom to create how you want to be in both in appearance and in presentation. And I just started going like, man, I can do anything I want, right? There's no stopping. Why can't I walk on stage in a tail? Why not? And then you just do it because nobody told you not to.
That's really cool. You are making me really want to go. When did you go last? And who did you go with?
So I've only actually been to Burning Man once. I've been to countless other music festivals many times, but Burning Man I had to really build myself up to because I was scared of it. I have really bad skin and I was really afraid of being in the desert for 9 days in an unforgiving climate. Things don't live there. Like nothing lives in this climate because it's so terrible. But I went in 2018 and I was ready to go again this year. Obviously that didn't happen, but it was just so beautiful. And the things I experienced, every single emotion, like you're going to be challenged in ways that you can't expect. You're going to be delighted in ways you can't expect. You're going to learn things about yourself that you didn't know just by being out there, but just the community of just riding a bike around this temporary city, seeing it is the closest thing to like what people feel, like what a child would feel at Disneyland. You go in there and everywhere you look, you're just like, wow, I cannot believe I'm here right now. This is the coolest. You feel that all the time.
That's pretty awesome.
It's, oh my God. I mean, the littlest things. Like I remember I saw a ladder. It was nighttime. I saw a ladder that went up to a slide. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm going to climb this 20-foot ladder. It's going to go down the slide. And I didn't really think about where it ended up or anything like that. So I literally I said to my friends, I was like, guys, stop 1 second. I'm going to do the slide. I climb up the slide. I go down the slide. I'm like, wee. And it empties out into a tent where there were 6 people. And they were like, welcome to the slide tent. And I was like, what? They're like, do you want to hang out? We all went down the slide. Now we're all hanging out. And I was like, my friends are out there, but thank you for inviting me. This is very and I had no idea it was going to empty into this random tent. And there's things like that where everywhere you go, there's shit to climb on, swing from, to get lit up by, to play with, to expand your mind in so many ways, to ask questions. It's just a nonstop dynamic paradox where you're just constantly flowing through it and existing and just always finding new ways to just see the world. And I think that's what's important about it is it's just, you can go out there, the most sober person in the entire world, and still you're in a living art museum. You know, there's over 300 massive art installations on the Deep Playa alone. And that's not even part of the city that they build, which has 80,000 people living in it for that week. I mean, I can't wait to go back.
That sounds very cool. Like, I really want to go. Obviously, that's the thing about COVID, because we connect with people. And so I feel like we had to wait until there's definitely a vaccine before I would go back to Burning or go to Burning.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really hope things are able to come back at some point in 2021. I think bigger things like festivals and things, it might still be another 15, 16 months before we have anything like that. And, you know, it's just, okay, so how else can I use this time to be productive and creative in my own ways? Because I would come back from an experience like Lightning in a Bottle, Coachella, Desert Hearts, whatever it may be. And even though I had been partying my face off for 3 or 4 straight days, or in Burning Man 9 days of literally I remember my day off at Burning Man. I was like, dude, I gotta keep it sober today. And I was like, my way of keeping it sober was to drink all day or drink all night and then do a bunch of cocaine at 7 a.m. so I could watch the sunset. And I was like, or sunrise. I was like, that's the sober day? I go hard, and my 35-year-old face can prove it. This is a hard life that I have lived because I go for it. But the other thing is that I would always come back, whereas my body should be dead, but I'm enlightened and I'm inspired and I'm feeling better than I ever have, because I just came from this magical world where literally anything that somebody thought of exists. And if you don't get inspired by that and use it to create your own things, then you're kind of wasting an opportunity.
Yeah. No, and that's one of the reasons I also like doing, if I was going to do a drug at Burning Man, it'd be mushrooms. Because
Yep.
It's so mind opening. But that's something I do it once in a while. You can't once in a while, but go hard at it and then just enjoy that experience is kind of my way of doing it.
I think everyone on the planet should do mushrooms at some point in their life. I think the everlasting effects of them are so beautiful. They're natural. So people that are like, I don't want to do a drug. It's like, it's here. It's not, nobody created this. This is here. And it will, I just know I've heard so few stories ever that were negative after taking mushrooms. You know, even if you had a negative experience at the time, something happened in you and you learned from it, and it made you a more well-rounded person in the end.
I'm lucky. I've never had a bad experience on mushrooms, but I've been very cautious that I only do it around people that make me feel positive or make me feel good. Or if I go to something, I waited till a couple times I did it to go to something. I went in Chicago. We had something that you would be down for. If you're ever in Chicago during the summer months, there's the Full Moon Fire Jam, it's a bunch of people around the time of the full moon. They go to this park near Foster Beach and they spin and dance with fire. And it started out small. I saw it when it was pretty small at first, when it was 50, 100 people. But then now it's 900, 1,000 people. It's free. They have a big drum circle. They got hundreds of people that are spinning and dancing with fire. Some people doing fire hula hoops, some people doing fire hand things, so many different cool things. It's just a cool, weird, hodgepodge of amazing people that are open-minded and fun.
I miss that. I think, obviously I miss performing a lot, but community is what I miss the most right now. I miss having these experiences and meeting these random people who are clearly into things that you are. I would always tell people that we're going to music festivals for their first, second, third time, whatever, that we're just getting into it. I was like, look, if you are in a place and you're watching music or you're experiencing art or whatever, making a clay sculpture, whatever it may be, whoever is next to you is going to be your new friend if you want them to be, because you ended up in the exact same place at the same time to experience the same thing. So if you guys made it to the same point to watch this band or whatever, how would this person not be your friend? You ended up, you're here for the exact same reason. And if you open yourself up to just talking to people around you and just being a kind, intuitive person, then again, you're just going to invite more people into your life. And it's going, I always tell people, like, there's no limit on the amount of love you can exert if you're taking in as much as you can at the same time. It's unlimited. So take in as much love as you can and then outflow it to the universe, to as many people as you can. And suddenly all these amazing things will start to happen to you.
I love that.
I can actually listen to a word I said. It's all lies.
I'd be really interested to see if some hardcore Republicans, what they would be like on mushrooms, and to see if that opened their mind a little bit or something.
I used to do a joke where I said, I think the very first day of a presidency should be the president has to take 1/8 of mushrooms in a small room and we just point a camera at them. And they just have to sit there for 6 hours. And whatever goes through their mind, America is watching. We're going to know the truth about who you are in just a few hours.
Interesting. That would be so good to see. Oh, that would be great television too. We should pitch that. Mushroom president.
Oh my God. Can you imagine, Joe Biden having to take 1/8 of mushrooms and then just being like, oh man, I guess unity really is the most important thing. Connecting with other humans. It's not the economy. It's not climate change. It's humans. And we'd be like, whoa, what's happening to Sleepy Joe right now? He's having a revelation.
I know. And that's another thing that was interesting when I took mushrooms. I noticed I didn't need my narcolepsy medicine to stay awake longer when I normally would have taken more. So that was very interesting to me too. But yeah, I totally agree. I think everyone should try mushrooms at some point.
I hope they do.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, if any takeaway from the podcast, try mushrooms. But safely with positive, people around you that make you happy.
I love it. Positivity, love, and fungus.
That's the title. That's the title right there. Positivity, love, and fungus. I'm gonna put that.
Do you title each podcast episode?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic! I love that. Fun.
We are starting to wind down a little bit, so I know we talked a little bit about sleep earlier, but I always end the podcast by asking people, like, what are your dreams and hopes for your future? Like, what are some things you want to do?
So, I can't wait to get back to performing full time and being on the road and being back in front of strangers in comedy clubs and theaters and wherever else the hell, like whatever outdoor picnic somebody is having me perform at. But really, I just want to keep, I want to keep finding ways to get back on TV and stretching myself and my chops and finding new ways to create and bring comedy to the world. I think I'm in a really good place right now. Because I've had this break, I just did something that was so much more creative than anything I've done before as far as like in the roasting world goes. So I just want to keep doing that and finding ways to just spread this message of love and happiness and just to be okay with yourself. I really love, the roasting stuff because it points out people's flaws. And I think the more you own your flaws, the less they own you. So I just want to keep spreading that message and finding new ways to give love and have fun everywhere I go. And I know I'm going to get to a place where no one will ever be able to tell me where to go. Everywhere I will go is based on my decision because I want to be there doing that thing. And I think once you are there, then you are 100% successful in every way and you've made it to the highest degree, whether it means it's a bunch of money or anything else. If you are where you want to be all the time, then you win.
Yeah. That's great. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing the podcast. And we always end by saying good night, everybody. So good night.
Good night, everybody. Mwah, mwah.
Thanks for listening to Sleeping with Sarah, where I slept with Alex Hooper. Be sure to follow Hooper on social media at Hooper Hairpuff on Instagram and Twitter, and go to his website, hoopercomedy.com, for more shows and info. If you like the podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe. I'll be releasing a new podcast each week, so tune in to find out who I have in bed with me next. A big thanks to Josh Bryant for the music. If you want to find out more about me, go to sleepysarah.com or follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Sarah Albritton. Until next time, good night.